What? We are live. It is, what is it, November 15th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's right. Today and tomorrow, every Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do live. And today we are going to do a lesson on tone. When tone. What? Oh. Apparently, this went live. What is going on here? Apparently. All right. That was funny. It went live. My phone went off and did all the YouTube. All right. There we are. Okay. So, where was I? Yes. When tone breaks your story. There we are. Ba-boom, ba-bang, ba-boom. All right. So, when tone breaks your story, that is what today's lesson is. But before we get into that, let's get all into the hellos and goodbyes and everything else that we have to do in this world. But more importantly, remember there is a poll in the comment section. The comment, what's the hardest cut to make? So basically, a beautiful line or prose, a full scene, a side character, or a character arc. Hey, we got flowers in the room. What's up, flowers? Yeah. So anyone who, we're going to talk about that at the end of the hour, but right now we're going to get into our hellos. We're going to get into the lesson. And you might be saying to yourself, Thomas, what the hell? What is tonal shifting? When tone breaks your story. So this is when you're like reading something. I've been fiddling with chapter 1. Your chapter 1? That's fantastic, Flowers. You gotta fiddle. You gotta fiddle and fiddle. If you have questions, you know you could always ask me live. What is up, SB? Yeah. To anyone who's jumping in, when tone breaks your story. So today we're gonna really talk about how, like, sometimes, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you're reading something or writing something and it starts off comedic and then it becomes maybe horror, or maybe becomes too action packed, or vice versa, where something is very horror based. Or let's get rid of genre and talk about something that's just an emotional cue. So tone also influences your emotional cue within a scene. So if a scene starts off highly emotional or dramatic, but then the humor that you implant for humanizing it doesn't necessarily work because it takes you out of the scene and breaks up the drama, or it basically nullifies it, where you're like, oh, we're supposed to be sitting in this moment, but the comedy just seems a little out of place, or, as we call it, the Marvel humor. Hey, what's up, M? M, I got your email. I will respond to it today. I promise you. But, we are like 8 hours difference over here. So when I got it, I was like waking up. I was like, oh, I got to get ready for this is very nice stuff. We will talk. M, I've tried to do this today. Morale. Well, hopefully he lets you do it. It's a matter of the you got to make some exceptions. So maybe he just wants to relax. Maybe he doesn't want to be played with on the screen. All right. So again, I'm gonna show you some examples I wrote out. The first example will take a tonal base of horror and then shift it to have more of a comedic feel to it, and hopefully you'll see the jarring. And then I'll show you a version of the same scene, but I adjusted it so it feels more in line with the tone. Now, this is the thing with tone. You're allowed to shift it within a scene. You're allowed to shift it within a chapter as much as you're allowed to shift it within a full narrative. My suggestion always, though, is to earn things and also allow character the behavior to ultimately be the defining factor when it comes to the shift in itself. I had to have him focus as Raphael was giving him the serious eyeball. That Raphael, you got to watch out for him. I know he wings it most of the time because he's an angel, but howdy, lovely people. What's up, Emma? It's like an alarm clock. Sometimes. So this will be different from the slow genre change over books. Yeah, this is more about the drastic change. However, the lesson itself will also help you identify when it is happening and what to do because it is happening, and how to make it more gradual. But hi Emma. But to be fair, slow genre change throughout books is just a matter of taking. If you ever watched relay racing, you know somebody's running up, they grab the baton, and then they take off. That's really what shifting tone should feel like. It should feel like a gradual rush to the next tone. However, you can flip flop, but again, everything needs to be earned and found what's on the page. Angel. Heidi, hi, Emma. All right, so let's get into it. Remember, if you have any questions about your own writing or what I am discussing today, please feel free to ask questions. To anyone jumping in, we do have a poll as always in the comment section. What's the hardest cut to make? A beautiful line or prose, a pro, a full scene, a side character, a character arc. All right, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. Let's get into it. All right, so this is the example where it has a drastic shift, and you know you want to make sure it doesn't feel like this. So let's read it. Mara pressed her back to the stone wall, breath controlled, eyes fixed on the stairwell. The torchlight sputtered. Something scraped in the dark below, slow, deliberate. Tightened her grip on the knife. The scraping stopped. Oh, great, she muttered. Please don't let it be another one of those tentacle guys. I still haven't gotten the slime smell out of my boots, and last time, one tried to hug me. The shadow at the bottom of the stairs growled, low and menacing. Yep, fantastic. That's exactly what I needed today. Now, as you can see, hopefully, uh, is that the example showcases how we are setting a tone or a mood with the darkness and the darkness and the horror, but her emotional truth in relationship to that tonality is what I might call shifting. It's a tonal jump. It's basically this belongs in Ghostbusters, not whatever this is. Because again, Ghostbusters might allow us to come out, you know, with the funny music or whatever the case is, but it's still Ghostbusters has that horror touch to it, that spiritual touch to it, right? But we know from the beginning that it's going to be, it has a humorous tone to it. So when you're writing, this can happen. You can get descriptive and very specific with your words in the prose, and then when it comes to dialogue, you're like trying to create character. But there's a couple things to keep in mind. Character defines description. All right. Now, why is that? And by the way, vice versa. The reason is, especially if it's in first person or third person limited. If it is in if it is in third person omniscient, the descriptions are through the perspective of the narrator. However, in this example, we are talking about third person limited or even first person, you know, if we switched it up a little bit. The descriptions have to come through how the characters are experiencing the emotional truth of the scene. So if what they are experiencing through how they are feeling and seeing and absorbing the room and environment around them, and then their dialogue does not reflect the same choices that they are noticing. For example, Mara is noticing, you know, the stone wall, right? And she's noticing her breath, and her eyes are fixed on the stairwell. She's focused on that. These are choices she's making. The torchlight sputtered. She is making that analysis. She is choosing the word sputtered. She is noticing the torchlight, right? And then she noticed something scraped in the dark below, right? The dark below. And then she's describing it. She's having this emotional stutter. It's slow, deliberate, too heavy to be human. She's going through the processing. You know, she tightened her grip on the knife. The scraping stopped. And then it just jumps to something that doesn't feel like she is in that same environment. It feels like she is outside of that, okay? So Barbarian. Isn't that from the 70s or 80s, if I remember correctly? The 70s or 80s. If it is, I know the movie you're talking about. All right. So let's look at this same example, but let's look at it where we maintain some of the dialogue, but we keep the tonality. Let's try it out. Boop, 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 boop. Wait, what did I change it to? 13? All right, I'm going to make this 13 also. Okay, so I'm going to read it again. Mara pressed her back to the stone wall, breath controlled, eyes fixed on the stairwell. The torchlight sputtered. Something scraped in the dark below. Slow, deliberate, too heavy to be human. She tightened her grip on the knife. The scraping stopped. Please, please, God, she whispered to herself. Don't let it be another tentacle from the shadows. A deep growl shivered out from the shadows. The darkness shifted, moving, its growl low and menacing. Her feet remained in the weight of her fear, held in the coolness of each breath. The corners pushed upon her. A slime squished beneath her boots, and the smell hit her nose in a violent sour rush. This isn't exactly what I needed today, she said, her teeth quivering in the grasp of blue lips. She closed her eyes and raised her knife. Not today. You will live, she assured herself. Okay, so real quick, more recent, it was like a comedy horror. Yeah. Barbarian I think I know what movie you're talking about. All right, so I kept the that's exactly what I needed, right? I kept the general idea of that. This isn't exactly what I needed today, right? So what's going on here is I'm trying to earn that final line. Yes, it is very much more in the moment, okay? The dialogue is being influenced by the emotional truth of how she's experiencing it. And she is trying to build herself up, right? She's trying to regulate the fear. This isn't exactly what I needed today. You know, she's trying to justify it, but she's not saying it as a joke cuz she's saying it through her quivering in the grasp of blue lips, the teeth quivering. So she's not like, oh, this is exactly what I needed today, right? No, her physical, emotional behavior is still within the sense of fear, but she's trying to justify, she's trying to deal with this, the trauma of horror, right? And then, of course, not today, you will live. She's trying to find that strength in her, right? She's trying to, hey, let's do it. Okay. And she assured herself is important because it is a choice. So sometimes you want to quote unquote tell. Remember, it's show, sometimes tell. Um, so the big difference is I added a little bit more here, but I wanted to do that to expand the darkness of the situation and then allow her words to sort of sit in the truth of the moment. Yes, as Flower says, more in the moment. So there are a couple things you can do as a writer to decide is it in the moment, and if it is not tonally set in the same stratosphere, as one might say, we do what's called identifying tone anchors. So if we go back to the original, okay, tone anchors would be like her back against the stone wall. Boop. Okay, breath controlled. Actually, I should do highlight. I should do highlighters. Let's see. I think that'll stand out more for you on the screen. On the screen. All right. Eyes fixed to the stairwell. Okay, so these are tonal these are tone identifiers that anchor us into the moment, okay? Uh honestly, all of this is sputtered. Okay, something scraped in the dark. Okay, so clearly this is filled. This is filled with a lot of tones, and the scraping stopped. Okay, so all these word choices are very much tone anchors. Okay, so when you're writing, you look through your prose and you try to find it. Okay, and if the dialogue, okay, is feeling oh wait, before I get to the dialogue. All right. So right now the descriptions are what we called filtered through emotional states. Okay, that's the second thing you're looking for. How are the emotions filtered through the emotional states of the character? Now, if it's humor, the descriptions would be less dramatic, less, right? Okay, because it'd be filtered through the emotional state of the characters. Okay, so right now this has lots of really great tonal anchors, but it also has really great emotional state. It is filtered through the emotional state. Then we get to the dialogue, and this brings us to the third thing: read dialogue out loud. Okay, so if we read this dialogue, oh, great, she muttered. So even if it's like, oh, great, please don't let it be another one of those tentacle guys. I still haven't gotten the slime smell out of my boots. And last time one tried to hug me, right? Does that read, even if I read it with fear, like let's see if I could do the emotional fear. Let's see, oh, great, please don't let this be another one of those tentacle guys. I still haven't gotten the slime smell out of my boots, and last time one tried to hug me. It still feels weird, right? It feels off. It feels disconnected. It is not necessarily filtered through the emotional state of what the description is representing, which is important because the description is supposed to be her emotional state. And then, of course, the identifying the tone anchors are connecting to these things, right? So this is underwater airplane. That is underwater airplane. Underwater air. Are you saying the sound is sounding like underwater? Or are you saying, am I missing the reference? Is that a movie reference? Underwater. All right. So no, the dialogue. Oh, all right. It does have like a, I guess, airplane, like it doesn't make sense. It's just completely out of place, right? So as a writer, it's your job to connect these three things, which again, just for the record, is we have to first identify tone anchors, making sure that we are recognizing what the tone is. Then we have to make sure that it's all being filtered through the emotional state of the characters. And then, of course, does the dialogue read out loud in a way that makes sense? Okay. And the other thing is, if we continue reading, the shadow at the bottom of the stairs growled, like all this, okay, shadow growled, whoop, low and menacing, low and menacing. All right. Those continue to hit those anchors, and it still continues to be an emotional state. However, because of this dialogue, now this doesn't make sense too. So now we're completely outside the tonal because we don't know where we're at. And then this line, yep, fantastic. That's exactly what I needed today. Okay. Um, so it's your job as a writer, when you're reading stuff out loud, please read your stuff out loud. All right. Is when you get the dialogue, the a an issue that sorry, an issue that writers have is they sit in descriptions through their own a voice as an author. They're like, how would I describe this? And then when they get the dialogue, sometimes authors have an amazing sense of voice for characters, but they forget that the descriptions are through the characters also. But if you write descriptions through how pretty can I write, and then you write dialogue through what are the characters saying, you can usually lose that disconnect in tonality. So it's important to first understand who is the POV, who's experiencing the scene. All right, that's the first thing you should really be recognizing, and how you're going to basically write out those descriptions. But more importantly, when a character talks, there are different senses of emotion. So if, let's say I'm in a scene and I'm the main POV, I'm the protagonist, and I'm experiencing the scene, and then there's another character named Jim, okay? I'm not going to know what Jim feels, all right? Even in third person limited, all right? Now, third person omniscient, yeah, sure, but definitely not in first person, all right? I'm not going to know what Jim feels, but I can know what Jim is presenting to me, my perspective of Jim. So if I think Jim is afraid, I can still describe him in the tonality of whatever it is, okay? Because it's my character, my perspective, feeling whatever it is, okay? Um, so what does that mean? It means if another character, like Jim, is moving around a scene, he's not going to be experiencing it. I'm still experiencing it. So my emotional state should also represent how I am perceiving Jim moving around the scene. More importantly, my dialogue should still represent that emotional state. Jim's dialogue doesn't have to, though. However, as a writer, you don't want to go too crazy with it. And you might be saying, well, why not? Why doesn't his? Well, because the emotional state of the scene is through the protagonist. The protagonist could be sitting in fear. The protagonist could be sitting in humor. The protagonist could be sitting in mystery. The protagonist is seeing the world as they are. Jim might not be scared at all. We could be walking around a perceived haunted house just for fun, scavenging, and to Jim, it's a Thursday. To me, I press my back against a stone wall, breath controlled, eyes fixed on the stairwell. The torchlight sputtered. Something scraped in the darkness. So there's a lot going on psychologically with that as well, and you as the writer have to keep that in mind, especially if Jim is not afraid. My perspective is still perceiving Jim as maybe being too brave, or why isn't he afraid? So Jim's dialogue will be one way, okay, but his behavior will be perceived in another way, because it's being filtered through a character. Yep, you've reined me into that this week. Yes. Well, you know me. I give my notes. It's the life, Jim, but not as we know it. Oh. What is it? Klingons on the starboard bow, on all that kind of jazz. Rooftop Rukaba. Klingons. All right. So with that said, what I did to add a little bit more movement to the emotional state was I studied her. I gave her a sense of being like, please God, don't let it be another tentacle from the shadow. So I took away the more, as this says, please don't let it be another one of those tentacle, like those those tentacle guys. All right. It kind of like takes away the tension. It takes away the stakes, right? Don't let it be another tentacle from the shadows, right? Meaning she's Mara already dealt with it, and she's afraid of the next potential. She's looking out for tentacles. So I had to change the way she perceived the threat. I had to create urgency and tension. Now how am I creating tension for the record? Well, don't let it be another tentacle from the shadows. I have officially started the clock. Remember, starting the clock just means that something could potentially happen. There is potential for something happening again because it's another tentacle from the shadows, which the tension now is, will another tentacle come out or will another tentacle not come out? And that's how you create tension. You basically set the clock or set the potential for, and then ultimately does it or does it not. The release of that tension is they get out safe or a tentacle comes out, just for the record, which is a little different than tonality. But yes, because she's already had a few of those guys. Get your grimy tentacles off of me. All right. Any questions? Any questions on this? Any questions? Any thoughts? Are you wondering about tonality with your own books? Let me know in the comments, please. All right, I gotta get some water. I need some agua. Who else needs some agua? Agua, agua, agua. All right, let's see. Boop, 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 boop. By the way, is everyone ready for Thanksgiving? It's apparently coming up. Like, instantly. I don't understand how this is happening. When is Thanksgiving? Is that the 27th? I forget. How is it Thanksgiving already? Holidays, am I right? They just pop up. They're just like, hey, how's it going? Hi. Hi. When is Thanksgiving? It's November 27th. Jesus. It's next week almost. All right. What we got here? Oh, not ready. And I'm hosting. See, right? Like it just pops up on us. It's just like, hey, look, it's Thanksgiving already. I had to keep Morel lighthearted as I needed him and Raph to talk about uh, the Travolta suit. But this is the thing: you can have characters be lighthearted, especially when you're trying to make it, how do I say, slightly darker. But you have to remember also, if characters are lighthearted and they're not necessarily afraid, that changes the tension and the stakes of the scene, but it also changes the way they perceive things. They aren't seeing things romantically, or they're not seeing things through, like, imagine a character, hypothetically, is immortal and they've seen everything they can. But the character tells jokes, the character is playful, the character doesn't take things seriously. Then they're not going to see the disdain in life, unless, of course, you develop the character to also have that position or that perspective. So that can disrupt the tonality, because if a character's like, oh, yes, another day, Thursday, but how many Thursdays can one have in an immortality? At least the water smells good today. And then they drink it and they're like, and then the description is like, oh, the cold, crisp sting of the water biting at my lips and tongue, how it corrupts my understanding of feeling and emotion. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying this to everybody in general. It's no longer about the character's experience, and their dialogue is different than their perception of things. Now, that could be okay, but what does the writer have to do? They have to establish the character as somebody that might be artistic, or, you know, stuck in their dread, but they make jokes or light of things to deal with that. Right now, a character could also be humorous, but also have something deeper in them, and you have to regulate their position on that. You have to say this character works through their trauma or works through their darkness with humor, but that has to be presented in positions, if that makes sense. But if descriptions start off one way, especially the first time we're meeting a character, and then their dialogue is sort of like, oh, I just wish I was painting today. I miss the color yellow. Yellow, it's so glorious, and it makes me feel friendly. Yes, yellow has a friendship to it. It's welcoming and absorbing. Well, it just, we don't know the character as an audience enough to connect those two things. Now, if it is omniscient, that's all the story. What, two? You found your way here? Now we have Swing Jim. What about Earthworm Jim? Then even Morrow recognizes he needs to focus because Ralph reins him in. You got to rein him in. But again, I've taken on board what you've said. Excelente. But I will make a, even though people probably don't know what we're talking about when it comes to these characters or the scene we're discussing, but I'll use it as a lesson, not talking about the scene, but in general. Like, if there's a character, so this isn't about Moral or Raph or that scene, but this is about the idea of it. So if a character is la-di-da-di, and the description is dark and philosophical and enlightening, and then there's a third character who is not a POV, and the third character is like, hey, I gotta rein you in, you know, you gotta take this seriously, right? But the third character isn't necessarily dark and imposing like the descriptions. They are just, their descriptions and movement is based on something that has to do with them and how the author wants to make them feel. Those are three tonalities not working together. Because remember, the protagonist is experiencing this character and they're experiencing the description and the world around them. So those are things you have to definitely pay attention to. Thank goodness we got Nufunk to be thankful over here. I'd bloody starve to death. Obviously. By the way, today we are supposed to be... oh, wait. I've discovered why Moral talks in third person too. That's a really great character quirk, by the way. Just remember, based on the note that I gave you, is like ensure that it's clear um, to the reader before it kind of happens. Like, remember, it's the first time they're meeting Moral, so that's important. But I do want to make today, if you didn't know, I actually I'm supposed to be on I'm supposed to be live on Kick 2 today, so that's fun. I wonder if it's happening. Let me look. Let me look. Oh yeah, there he is. There he is. Looking at 0 followers or viewers today, but that's okay, right? You got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. All right, let's do it. Let's get into some questions before we get into the poll. And remember, if you're sitting here and you're jumping in, we do have a poll in the comments. What's the hardest cut to make when writing? We have a beautiful line of prose. We have a full scene. Side characters, and of course, a character arc. All right. Other than that, answering audience questions. Let's get into it. Because we're all here. That's right. You are all here. Well, Kick has its own audiences, but I am not doing gaming. But, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, if you have a question about your own writing or what you're working on, please ask me. I'm a developmental editor and a writing teacher, so it's basically free advice. Well, we're here. If there's not a lot going on, though, we can go to the polls. It's really up to you guys as an audience. I'm here to entertain and educate and elevate. So if whatever the case is, you let me know. We can move on. We can answer questions. Excellent. All right. I'm just looking over some notes. Okay, excellent. We're good. All right. Assuming no questions, I'm happy to move on. Move on to but if you have questions, just ask. That's the only reason I love doing these lives. I love answering questions. It's really poll. All right, let's get into the poll. All right. If anyone, I'm gonna talk through the poll. If you haven't voted yet, please vote. We have 7 votes, which means there are 9 viewers, so potentially there are 7, 8, 9, 2 more votes on the table. What's the hardest to cut when you cut to make when writing? We have beautiful line or prose, which is always painful. A full scene. All right, a beautiful line or prose is at 14%. That's fair. A full scene, 43%. Ah, yeah, for sure. Because it's easily 300 to 2,000 words a scene could be. And to be like, oh, I got to get rid of this. I would also a full scene or a chapter. I would also count that as a full scene or a chapter. And then a side character. Woo, 29%. Especially if it's a character that you really love, but if you give them too much page time, or if you allow them to they're going to take over the show. Some characters can do that. Another thing though that's interesting is when a character in your heart as a writer would not be interesting if they had the reins, like if they were the one that was leading the narrative, but it's because they are mysterious. It's because we don't know a lot about them. It's because them as a character is a little bit deeper than what we know. Like all that, I think helps elevate a character a lot more than if a certain character is the protagonist. But sometimes a side character really just comes in and they're there and they have a very specific purpose, but at the end of the day, they don't do much. They don't have a presence on the page. They only come in when they have to say their lines, which are very specific to what they're knowledgeable of. So they're just like, hey, I'm here to do my line. And then they step back, or they're out of scenes or out of chapters. Right. So those side characters we do have to cut, but it can be so hard because those characters have some of the best lines, or those characters have a really great personality you like writing. But then at the end of the day, it's like, I read the question wrong. Can I change my answer? Does it allow you to, or it automatically sets it up as a I'm actually kind of curious. What's the hardest cut to make as a writer? I would love to know, June. Okay. And then of course a character arc, 12%. Now, I like that character arc and prose and lines are at 12%, because a character arc to me, I feel is the same thing as a prose or a line, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was in screenwriting more full time, um, lines, right? Uh, right, like I always say, every line costs money, every page costs money, right? And when you're trying to really develop a character, especially in a film, you don't have the narrative length that you do when you're writing a long form fiction. You know, when you're writing a book. So a lot of times you say because every time you add something to a character, that becomes an arc. So a character's relationship with somebody, that's an arc. A character's position can technically become an arc. Character's wants on certain things can become an arc. So if you ever watch a movie compared to a book, the movie is going to usually cut away tons of arcs and just focus on the driving narrative force of the protagonist. They're like central character arc. And then like maybe they have like a love interest, or maybe they have a friendship, or maybe there's like something in the background. But rarely, like in a book, you're gonna see 7 or 8 arcs. But in a book, you could do that. You can play with a lot of smaller arcs for characters, ones that might only last a couple of chapters, one that might only last a chapter. So it is easier, I think, to cut a character arc when you're just like, this is just more for me. Let me take this out. I think it would be harder to take out the central conflict, or I should say, the central character arc for the protagonist, because that drives the narrative, you know. But remind me of multiple choice questions in exams. I rarely picked the right one. Oh, you got to choose abacadabra all the way down. But anyway, look at this. Look at this. The vote, we have 8 votes, and it actually brings a full scene and side characters to a tie. Interesting. 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 Well, we have 11 viewers. If anyone wants to vote on the poll, what's the hardest cut to make as a writer? Please jump in and vote. We have a beautiful line or prose, cutting that. We have a full scene, cutting that. A side character, cutting that, or a character arc, cutting that. What is the hardest to cut in your mind as a writer to clean that up? Let me know in the vote, and we'll cut the vote out. I'll give my opinion, and then maybe we could end the vote. You know, when it comes to lines and prose, I don't even think about it. Cut. I I have what happened there? I have zero reservation, zero reservations on cutting a pro or a line, because the goal of writing is to serve the narrative at all times. For anyone who's jumping in, we are now working on a poll. What's the hardest cut to make when writing? We have 8 votes right now, 12 viewers. We're talking about some of the hardest things to cut as a writer, and I'm talking about prose and lines. And honestly, I'll just cut them out. You know, and that comes down to being comfortable with it as a screenwriter who turned novelist. Really, at the end of the day, do I want, is this line worth my word budget? Usually not. When it comes to a full scene, that's a little harder for me. But I'll be honest, I probably choose a full scene. What makes full scene so hard is it can completely disrupt the pace and the rhythm. However, it could disrupt it where it makes it too slow, or it could disrupt it where it makes it too fast. Sometimes you got to move it. So sometimes before deleting a full scene or deleting a full chapter, just move it. See if it works in another spot. See if it works before or after a specific chapter. Before you delete the full scene or the chapter itself, because remember, a chapter could be a full scene. Just move it around. See what it feels like in a read when you're playing around with the pacing. As far as that goes. All right, let's do it. We're gonna end the poll. It looks like there's a tie though. We have a tie. There is a tie. According to the group, we choose both a full scene and a side character. Interesting. I'm assuming, did it let you choose a different thing? Did you go back and you switched your choice? You're like, I'm going to go from full scene to side character. Boom, boom, bang, boom, boom. This water is pretty good today. I just want to put that out there. All right. Well, lot of fun today. I think today's going to be a short day, but tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing the Write a Book with Me series. But more importantly, I have a holiday party I have to go to at night. So tomorrow we're gonna still do it, but I'm gonna try to have a hard out after an hour. So it's gonna go from 2 to 3. I won't be able to sit around afterwards and chit and chat a lot, even though I want to. You know, I love to do that. One man, one vote. You can't change it ever again. All right. Did anyone learn anything today about tonality in general? Did you learn anything about things to cut? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if what's going on is going on. I also want to point out I've been recording next year's season already. Okay, just so you know. Remember, I do all the pre-records, right, for Wednesdays and Fridays. But this year, I'm going to try something different. If you have a lesson that you'd like me to expand upon or do in general, please always leave them in the comments of videos, or you could email me, or you can message me on social media, because I'm going to film videos outside of the schedule and just randomly post them throughout the year as they come my way. So on top of the live videos Saturday and Sunday and the Wednesday, Friday pre-records, I'm going to record any videos that people send me to film. Obviously, if it's, can you show me how to bake a cake? I will not be doing that at all. You've reinforced the advice. Excelente. Bravo, bravo, bellissimo. I'm glad too, because honestly, that's all I'm here for. I love, I care, and I try to help. That's it. It's all. It's never judgment. It's never what I would consider critiquing. I never thought about tonality before, so thanks for that. Boom, 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 boom. Thank you, SB, allowing me to. I love that I feel the urge to sing when I see some of your comments. I just want to put that out there. Praise the Lord. Whether I can turn that around and put it into practice is another thing. As Michael Jackson would say. Look, the only way us writers can learn a skill and improve our craft is to not only write. I know, that sounds crazy, right? You need to learn to write when you're not writing a novel. Practice is so important, but you have to give yourself exercises. You have to create a scene that has nothing to do with anything you're working on. You have to play outside your playground. It's one of the main reasons I'm doing the Laura Olivia science fiction that I'm going to end up writing in first person, and that I'm giving myself restrictions to try to stick to 27 chapters, even though we've kind of split a couple of chapters up. I'm trying to write a concise story because I'm giving myself stuff to practice with. It's outside my traditional writing. It's outside the things I like to do. It's outside my tonality, things like that. It's going to challenge me. Okay. But as writers, that's what we have to do. So if you're working on tonality, if you're working on dialogue, if you're working on personality, if you're working on description, you need to set aside some time, even if it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and go, all right, I'm going to write this scene out. I'm going to write out somebody being afraid. I'm going to write out somebody being happy in the same situation. I'm going to write, right? You take moments and you just play with those moments, and it really does help you define your craft. That's also how you find your voice, you know. That's because in the beginning, I told you, you did tell me you love my singing, and you've always remembered to sing to me. Come sing with me, sing the night away. I am sure flowers can definitely, without a doubt, do it. Just a little practice here and there makes I still practice, believe it or not. I mean, doing these lessons is an example of practicing. It gives me a chance. When I write in real time, when I'm like, all right, I got the time today, let me write in real time. That's me practicing. I'm writing outside of me writing. I am focused on a specific thing. So it's very important. Plot. We have a full day's worth of patience. Excellent. Conflict. First patient of the day is late. Excellent. Solution. Close the office for the rest of the day so no one else is late. Oh, that's interesting because that leads to another conflict. That leads to a consequence. So that's good. There you go. That's chapter one. We have a full day's worth of patience. That's the beginning of the chapter. The first patient comes is late. By the end of the chapter, solution close the office door so no one else is late. And then chapter two would challenge that. I love it. Sing once again with me. What is it? My power over you grows stronger yet. And though you turn from me to glance behind. Chapter 2 is We Closed the Office Doors and Went Home for the Day. I love it. Mosey on home, forget the patience. Bye, bye, bye. Chapter 3, Get Wasted. That should be the name of the chapter because then we would play on, the term wasted. Is we shit. more or less not great. Agrees with this this way everything's gonna play out. What you do this weekend? I crept on my neighbor's lawn. Why? Crept on my neighbor's lawn. I mean, it's fun. Shit happens. That's the truth of the matter. Well, that would be not great. More or less not great. More or less not great. Other than that. One more thing. I'm almost caught up with the other videos, and I'm a little stumped on what is a peach for it. Stumped on what is a peach for head. My dyslexia is saying peach for a head, and I don't know if you're referencing a joke that I told where I was like, there's this guy and he's got a peach for a head. Oh yeah, the joke. Yeah, yeah. There's a guy with a peach for a head, and wait, I didn't. Let me start that joke over. So basically, this guy, right, and he's walking around the street, and he sees somebody, and the guy is carrying a briefcase, and he's got a peach for a head, and the guy stops and he goes, "Yo, why do you have a peach for the head?" And he goes, "Oh, funny story. I found a genie, and I asked for 3 wishes." And he's like, "What are the wishes?" And he's like, "Well, the first wish was I wanted to be super wealthy. So, they gave me this briefcase, and every time I open up, money come, I get money from it." Oh, what was the second wish? The second wish, well, I wanted women to love me. I wanted women to just want me all the time. Oh, and what was the third one? He's like, "Well, the third, I wanted a peach for a head." Just wanted a peach for that. So stupid. I love that joke. I just wanted a peach for a head. That's all. I told that joke to my friend once, and we were crying, we were laughing. But that was the first time I ever. It's just a stupid joke. That's all. It's just one of those jokes, It's like, did you just peach for that? I got a ton of those stupid jokes. It is very Monty Python. Who here is a part of the Silly Walks? All right. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Before we go, I just want you to know, if you haven't been following along on the social media, I have finished officially the second draft of the 27 plot point outline. I finished it, and now I am flying through the third draft, which is less of a rewrite, and a cleanup. And I'm doing all the line work. I'm doing some of the polishing, and I'm doing some of the automated reading so I can hear it and make sure everything flows well. So I am flying through this. I'm on chapter 10 already on this, so I'm really happy how fast that's going on. For anyone who's reading Death of a King, again, I want to shout out and thank you, all of you, for the love and support. And, I hope you're absolutely enjoying the novel as it is presented weekly, but more importantly, you're learning something each week, and that the evolution of the chapters is showing you something that can definitely help you with your writing, and that my advice is also helping with that. As you get deeper and deeper into the book, the lesson parts will be less huge, and they'll be more straightforward and concise. Again, as I'm learning to write that series out for everybody, I'm trying to find a voice to it that's a nice mixture of lesson and also learning some insight. So that's important. But I'm really happy that you're all out there. And I think right now there's 10 or 11 chapters that are posted. So I'm loving it. I'm loving that you're getting to read that. And of course, anyone who doesn't know, Christmas is coming up. MakeARightLeftHere.com. You can go right there and you can purchase Breaking Down Success, the foundation for longevity. So if you're looking to be successful in the entertainment industry, that includes being a writer, this book helps you set that foundation. Other than that, what do we got? Oh my! This pirate is this pirate is dead. This is the deceased pirate. The pirate is no more. Yay, Thomas, cool beans. That's right, you are reading through the book as well. I can't wait till you get to Act 2. I'll be honest. Act 2 is going to be where it starts challenging everything that you learn in Act 1 and the book. You'll see. Aaliyah the redhead. Yes, the redhead. The little bard that could. I love Aaliyah. I love that you talk about Aaliyah too. I love Aaliyah. She is wonderful. Oh yeah, you read chapter 10 just recently. Yep. You also got a glimpse of Vigum. Ooh, Vigum. Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. You're halfway through Act 1, as they say. So, which book do you suggest we get first? Well, the Breaking Down Success is something you should get if you're interested in self-help and like learning a little bit about the industry and how to sort of organize your the business of being a writer. That I don't recommend anyone just buy any one of the books. Obviously buy the book if it'll be helpful to you, if you think you'll get something out of it. As far as the 27 plot point outline, that should be out by January. So you can't actually technically purchase it right now. However, Death of a King is available. So if you like epic fantasy, it is not purchasable as a hard book or a soft or a paperback. It is exclusively through the Patreon. But again, I don't recommend anyone buys any of my books unless you're looking for self-help, how to write outlines, and or understand narrative in general. It's not just an outlining book. And then, of course, if you truly love epic fantasy, boom. Oh, she flicks his nose. Oh, yeah. What's that? Oh, I hate that. Fun little insight on that, Flowers. Yes, SB, it is the scribed here. The scribed here. Correct. 100% it's the scribed. Little inside. My grandfather used to do that to everybody. Well, what's this? And then boom. And then I started doing it to everybody. And I did it so much that all my friends are like, when you die, we're going to have on your grave, we're going to have like grass grow around it. And there's going to be a thing that says, what's this? And then you move the grass and it's just going to be like a finger that just does this to people. And I was like, I like it. Because I do that to everybody. So all my friends who have read the book so far, every time they get to that, they go, yeah, you had to put that in there, right? And I was like, I had to put that in there. I had to. I had to flip people. Bloop that like button. Bloop it, bloop it, bloop it. And right back to that. Yes, it is the scribe. It is the scribe. It's the scribe. Heart. And by the way, SB, if you do end up paying for the scribe, you could cancel your membership on the YouTube and just focus on that because you'll get the same stuff. You'll get additional stuff for being on the scribe, but the I feel bad if people are paying for both. just That's just how I am. I'm not a pay me kind of person. I love the support. I love everybody doing what they're doing, but I'm always uncomfortable with that stuff. I don't know why. I don't know why. I guess maybe I wish. I just wish. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just wish everybody had money. I just wish everybody was taken care of. That's all. Make sure it's just your finger popping up, Thomas. That's right. At my age, that's really all. This is all that can happen. What is this? Got it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Much love always. All right, there we go. We did a lot today. We got through it. Why does it feel so hot in this today? My heater is blasting. That's all I'm gonna say. My heater's blasting. Did I have something else to say? No, I didn't. I don't. All right, we're gonna close that out. What else? Was there anything that I had to say? Did I feel like I had to say? I don't know. What's your tonal range, Thomas? You mean for singing? In chorus, I was a bass all the way up to a tenor. I have a 3 range octave, but it starts very low and then it goes high-ish. I can sing falsetto, but that I don't consider that a controlled range. But I do start down here, and I can go up here all the way. So I wanted to be like a theater, like a musical guy, but then I, did music in heavy metal, so that changed things. But I've always been, like I wish I could be out there, singing the good stuff, singing the, the Phantom of the Opera, sing once again with me, that stuff, or the Jekyll and Hyde, the in the night air, it's a fright scare. Like I wanted to be in that world, but I got into the metal, which was fun because, I would sing more like the theater musical stuff, and then but it would be heavy metal, like progressive doom metal. Back in the day. I used to sing till my teacher told me I can hold a note, but sadly. All right, I needed that. Oh, all right, there it goes. Oh me, oh my. Oh me, oh my. By the way, I think that's it. I think good. Does anyone know the story about that song where like Gene Simmons was like, was it the Gene Simmons was telling the story about that song where Paul Stanley came in and he's like, I got this song And Gene's like, well, what is the song called? And he's like, I was made for loving you. And Gene was like, yeah, that's great. What are the lyrics? And he goes, oh, the first one is like tonight. And Gene's like, yeah, tonight, tonight. Good night, SB. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Bye, SB. Bye, SB. I'm getting ready to jump off, but I just want to tell the story. So Gene is like, tell me what's the first line. He's like, oh, tonight. He's like, ooh, tonight. He's like, what's the next one? He goes, I want to give it all to you. And Gene's like, oh, yes, yes. What's next? What's the third line? He's like, in the darkness. In the darkness. This is gonna good. Yeah, there's so much I want to do to. Yeah, this is really good. What's my line? What do I get to do? And Paul Stanley was like, you go do 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 do. And Gene's like, nope, song, nope, we are not doing this song. He's like, I'm not doing that. You get all the good lines, and I gotta go do 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 do, right? And then and then Paul obviously convinced. He's like, look, trust me, we'll do it. We'll sing it. We'll have fun, whatever. And Gene was, in some of his interviews, he always talks. He goes, now for the rest of my life, I got, the only reason I am okay doing that song is because every time we get to the chorus, the entire crowd is, hopping. It could be metalheads, everyone just do 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 do, And he's like, that's all I care about. But I hate that song. I think that's so funny. It's hysterical. We're not doing this song. Well, I know, but it's an earworm. It sticks, But the song tonight, I wanna get with you in the darkness, I was made for loving you, baby. You were made for loving me. Song Calmer. Are you talking about the song I showed the other day by Camelot? Camelot. I am a king of honor, golden glory, but every king must also die. Have I been just and righteous? What is glory? I know I've torn and taken life, and here I stand, a small and simple man who will trade his karma for his kingdom, a sacrificial right to render truth. The fire in my soul rejects my wisdom, 'cause all you do in life comes back to you. I love that song. That song is so good. Or Kama Sutra, listening to dem lyrics. The Kama Sutra. Just bands write stuff in the early days, and I hate it. But the fans and discovering them and are nostalgic for those songs. That is true. Yeah, that is true. That's true. Just bands writing stuff. Yeah, if you listen to like certain lyrics and you actually read them, some hits are not well written, but the songs, the music, the cadences, the vocal line, but not necessarily the lyrics. They don't make it like they used to, flowers. But it's true. It's like she was only 16. What is it? She was only 17? Winger? Yeah. Okay, first of all, this song was a massive hit. And she was only 17, and he was 1 year more. Okay? She loved him with all her heart, and he, the girl, adored. But all their friends believed they were too young to know the score, 'cause she was only 17. Right? But the guy singing it is in his 30s. And he's talking about this a guy being 18 and a girl being 17, and like his love story, and you're just like. But then there's like older songs, even older songs that are like that. Where you're just. My favorite story with lyrics though is Prince was asked to be. Do you know Wesley Snipes in the Bad song, the Bad video? I'm bad, Shamon, you know it. And Wesley Snipes is like, "Are you bad?" And Michael Jackson's, "I'm bad, right? Prince was supposed to be Wesley Snipes in that video, and they're interviewing Prince, when he was alive, and they're like, "Oh, there's a rumor that you were supposed to be in Bad, the video Bad." He goes, "I was, but the first line to that song is 'Your butt is mine.' I'm not gonna be in that video." Your butt is mine. Don't be so shallow. Because of mine. All right. Brian Malco song, Nancy Boy. I'm 52. I can't sing that anymore. That's funny. That's fair. Shamon. uh, by the way, I used to love Jackson so much. I was addicted to all his music. What is it? It's close to midnight. Something's lurking evil in the dark. Under moonlight, you see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream, but terror takes the sound before you make it. You start to freeze as horror looks you right between the eyes. You're paralyzed, cause it's thriller night. I'm sorry. Don't know if you can say Nancy Boy anymore. Well, it depends if it's Nancy's boy and if you buy Carla's son's book. My first two cassettes were Thriller. Oh, and yes, the Pleasure Principle. Carla's book. I used to walk around school. By the way, I was a kid when it came out, the 80s. I used to walk around going, she was more like a beauty queen from a movie I seen. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. She said, I am the one. Right? All I did was just sing that song. Oh, and Disney songs. I sang every Disney song you can think of. One time, every morning going to school, I would just sing the Aladdin songs, like all of them, like until we got to school. And one day I just didn't, and like ladies turned around and they're like, "Hey, how come you're not singing today?" I was like, I don't know. I feel like I get lost in my head, and I don't want to annoy people. I think it's annoying. And then everyone's like, "No, sing the songs." So then the whole bus started singing, "A whole new world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess." The whole bus. We started singing a whole new word. Change. And I was like, music is so magical. And like the way it just brings people together. And I think that's why I write, because writing is like a soulful art form that, like, where we just take all these feelings and we put them into these words, and then the words themselves radiate through you in a rhythm. And like song is the same way musically, lyrically, but it's like words on the page do it too. If you put the right words in the right order, and you just represent those emotions, and it's just so beautiful. I don't know. I love the emotions of those things. Did you like a Jacksonette in those days? Did I like Jacksonette? You know what? I don't know why that's not hitting my brain. Jacksonette. Isn't it? Isn't it? Wait, is that the Jackson 5 stuff? Michael Jackson. Jackson. I don't know. I'm lost. But I did like what is that one? ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3, as simple as do re mi. ABC, 1, 2, 3, baby you and me, girl. 80s, my favorite era. Jeez, makes me feel old. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the 80s. 80s were a good time. The 80s were a good time. I miss the 80s too. The 80s was a time when, like, you know, I don't know, music was being like, it was experimental. We, hey, Ro, what's up? Can't sing Ben without thinking of puppies. Puppies. The 80s had this real fantastic explosion of expression and style that we obviously would laugh at today, but people were trying things. You know, we just came out of the 70s, which I think was the 70s the age of love? Was the 70s the age of love? Right? Was it? Or was that the 60s? Was what's going on? What's going on? What is why is that doing that? Age of love. It's the age. Yeah, the 70s was considered the age of love. But the 80s was just like about generational angst, and music was being manipulated and converted into these different contorted ideas. Punk rock and hard rock and metal was finding its thrash and death metal, and like, so music was really like, you know, I guess it's still doing it today. Like, people are trying stuff, but I think because there's just so much, so saturated, that we don't get to see. I think maybe I'm getting old, but I like to hey Rose. Oh, 60s was Age of Aquarius. I think, like, because I was born in the 70s. I lived through the 80s as a child. I was a quote unquote teenager in the 90s, and then an adult in the 2000s. But I finally have, yes, that's right. The 20s. We have yeah, we got it down. It looks good too. Smells good. Feels good. It all sounds the same these days. Yay! Let's give Ro an applause for making it happen. Boo doo boo boo boo. I what I'm saying is, and I agree, it does, everything kind of sounds the same. But hey, Ro, congratulations. My thought is, like, we grew up in a time, and by we I mean the ones that are weren't born in 2000s. But we grew up in a time where things like evolved, and now it's just like like everything is just, here's a thing, and then, oh, here's more of the thing, and then Thomas did the heavy lifting. If it makes you feel better, my back feels good after I stretched. Um, I don't know. Do you agree with that? Maybe I'm just talking out my rear end, but maybe I just want a peach for the head. But, like, I feel like, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I would even say up to maybe 2010, things kind of evolved. But now there's so much access and so much, it's so easy in comparison to the days of old, where art and creative, like writing, music, movies, like we could film a full movie on our phone if we wanted to. The quality in the phone is so beyond the quality of any high-end video camera we could buy back in the 80s. And it's like, now everything is just, it's there. Like, there's no time to sort of experience it. It is just as is. Maybe I don't know. The peach. I just want a peach for Ed. He dealt with my messiatic called the brain. I wouldn't say I dealt with it. I said I got to enjoy it. I got to roam around inside. We got to play and dance and shift around. I just want a peach for a head. I think that upsets me a little bit, but I guess it is what it is. I'm getting to that age where I'm like, get off my lawn, kids. But even like when I watch television shows, it's just, they don't spend time on characters. They don't spend time. They just like, this has to happen. And I'm not talking about procedural, like a Law and Order. Like, they have to be like, here's the exposition, here's the guy, here's the girl, we arrested him. All right, here's the kid. Like that's different. I'm talking about like a show where it would have traditionally got 23 episodes, or if it was more of an hour long, it might have got 12 episodes. And now they get 6 or 8. And it's like the first episode has to basically be the ordinary world, the inciting incident, and the reaction to it. Boom. The second episode now has to be, you know what I'm saying? Now they got to, like, if we look at the 27 plot point outline, you no matter if you're writing without that outline or not, those beats still exist and those beats have to be there. And if you look at anything, you'll find them. But because shows are so condensed and they're usually like series where it's, not like a Friends, it's like, like Breaking Bad, right? That the season is an arc and every episode has like its own 27 platform. But everything is just it's just squashed together, so they have to rush through these beats. They have to do lots of exposition. And I think that's probably why Game of Thrones the last season suffered. It was such a short season, they didn't get to really explore things. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Thank you for being kind. You know me, I'm always kind. I'm serious, bro. I'm serious. Yeah, people were always experimenting, coming. Yeah, they always playing with stuff. But nowadays, it's just there's no attention span. It's just things are happening. It's like, how do we get it out as quick as possible? There's a show I really like called The Rookie, and like the first 3 seasons are fantastic writing, and then it starts getting into that what I call the WB formula, and where it's like two people in a room, and they have to one person expresses a conflict or something inside, and the other person says, we're not ready for that right now, and then like they're like, okay, and then like, we can't talk about this, and then the phone, right? Oh, we gotta go, it's the chief, and they can't deal with it. And then at the end of the episode, they sit there and go, I was thinking about everything you had to say, and you're right, and I'm sorry. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they like seed the next episode. Or like when I say the WB, it's like Arrow. The first season of Arrow, and maybe definitely the first season of Flash. Prime writing. Excellent, excellent work on storytelling for that style and genre. But those shows turn into two people in a room. I have an issue. The music swells, and then just like, right. But that's because they're just like, how do you write at high quality for so long, right? You have to break things up. You gotta, we gotta write another 23 episodes. And it's like some episodes are gonna just be like, all right, the villain of the week, and what are their powers, and then they have a conversation about it and how we're going to stop it. But the guy who played the Flash, what was his name? Grant, Flash actor from WB. I think he's like a singer and stuff. Not Ezra Miller, the other one. Grant Gustin. He said in an interview, he goes, it was getting harder and harder to do that show, not only for the writers, but for us as actors, because at a certain point, the Flash got so powerful in the show, like he explored and developed enough power, Flash powers, where he's like, the show would be over in 22 seconds. Because the problem would have, the world would have to be introduced, the problem would have to be introduced, and then the Flash just fixes it. So they were always trying to be like, how do we disrupt the Flash's powers? How do we make it harder for him? How do we whatever? And that's what makes writing interesting, in a sense of like, all right, how do we do that? How do we break the system? How do we, because you can't have it all be easy, right? But it starts getting really bizarre at a certain point, and it starts getting really lazy. Yes, early Arrow and Flash was they was some of the best releases. I would say those are the only shows that really stood on their own, as far, because I think it was called Batwoman. Batwoman was terrible. Legends of Tomorrow, I think it was called. That show had something, but it just. I'm a huge fan of Savage, Randall Savage, and they just terrible representation of that character. So that kind of like put me off. What was the other show? Had a bunch of them. Supergirl, I wasn't a fan of. I'll be honest. I was not a fan of that show. I tried watching it. I got 2 seasons in, and I was just like, this is just too much. I don't have time for this. Once they made Olsen, Jimmy Olsen, like a superhero, I was like, okay. She-Hulk, some pervs fantasy things. She-Hulk. Like, I don't like talking bad about certain things, but let's just put it this way. Sometimes people are in the right place at the right time and they get an opportunity and a team gets the right and they aren't necessarily fans of the source material, let's say that, and they have an idea of a story that they want to write and they filter it through these characters, and whether they have an agenda or not, it doesn't matter. It's just they're just not the right fit, but they get in and then they do their thing. But that happens a lot, like but sometimes you get lightning in a bottle. Like, but to be fair, Tiki Ragnarok, right? Thor Ragnarok. I don't think that was written by Tiki, but Taika. Yeah, so Taika what all right, so here's an example. Taika Waititi did not write Thor Ragnarok. He directed it. So the vibe of it was very much him. It was Eric Pearson, Craig Kyle, Christopher L. Hoist. They wrote that movie. And that movie is very good. And the direction of Tiki helped kind of put a little bit of life into Thor. But in Thor Love and Thunder, he wrote that movie. And that movie, complete tone wise, going back to tone, the tonality of that movie not only leaned too deep into the humor of what made Ragnarok fresh and new, but it ignored what made Thor Thor. And we learned in interviews, Watiti never read the comics. He didn't care about the source material, right? So when writing something, not directing it, because he was directing someone else's words, he was directing, other people's stuff. But when writing something, if you are not going to believe in the source material, you are now writing a story you want to write through another platform, right? And again, I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just saying sometimes the right doors open, the right path opens, the right people want to give you a chance, and you go in and you get to do your thing. And when I say agenda, I mean like your vision. Like, I have a vision and no one's allowing me to do my vision. Oh, I can do this project? Oh, maybe I could put my vision into this project. And then it turns into, The Witcher, or whatever. Or this is the thing that's crazy. Game of Thrones, the showrunners for Game of Thrones, they only lasted to the 5th season. So David Brenner and DB Weiss, they were there for 5 seasons. So this isn't a good example of source material and then adjusting source material. They only got the gig because they were able to answer questions from R.R. Martin, right? And they understood the tone of the story. And they understood the whole purpose of it. So when they got it, they were able to add small touches. And some of the best speeches, by the way, are not in the book. It's their speeches for that show. But then they left the show and somebody else took over as showrunner. And they had an agenda. And I'm not, agenda meaning they had a vision for something else. And they never got their opportunity. So they started twisting and turning the established tone that was there and the threads that were there from David and DB. And they pushed in their own ideas, and it completely changed the way we look at that show. And if you look at the seasons after 5, the feel and the vibe and the way they get through things is a little bit different. Like the speeches and the exposition is so uncharacteristic of these characters and the changes in their characters. But again, that's the thing, you know. So I know there's a long rant about She-Hulk, but She-Hulk is just an example of I have my opinions, but at the same time, they got their opportunity. Somebody gave them a chance. They're not going to get another chance at doing that show, just like other shows, didn't work out. Like Echo didn't work out as they thought it would. Um, but Daredevil does. So how much do you care about the source material? That's just the thing. But even writers, like us as novelists, if somebody gives you a chance and you're writing your own thing, you know, you don't get a lot of them. So it's not that it has to be perfect. It just needs to be true. It needs to be honest. It needs to, you need to cross your T's and dot your I's and stuff, I guess. It's always important to maintain the tone of a work. The key is balance and remembering themes and ideas you want. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. What excellent jump in. That was fantastic, my friend. Fantastic. I agree. Their agenda is not only a vision, but also an agenda. Well, when I say agenda, I'm just saying vision because it's everything. It's the things they want to talk about. It's the things that are interesting to them. It's the story that they thought about but couldn't get picked up because no one was interested in it. So then they go, I'm going to put it on this and put it on that. And it happens. It is what it is. And I don't agree with it. I'm not in support of like, yeah, just use an IP or use like Rain Johnson or whatever. Ryan Johnson. Was it Rain Johnson? The guy who did the Last Jedi. He basically made his movie and was like, I don't care that anything else exists. And that's fine. But at the same time, I don't agree with it. It's just, but he got his chance. But as an example, he did what he did with his personal movies, the movies that he loved that he made, and they were like, we want to give you this movie. And while he was working on that, they were like, we want to give you your own trilogy for something else in Star Wars. There was a lot of pushback on him making that film. Then the film came out. There was a lot of pushback on that. And what happened? He lost the trilogy. He's not working on more Star Wars stuff. He's had to go back to doing like 7 onion movies, glass onion movies. My point is, if you get an opportunity and the door opens for you to go in, and because you are a part of something, you got to do your homework. And it's when I was deep in the business, the producing business and the film and television, the people that survived, the people that stayed, and the people that grew were the ones that fueled and elevated the tables they joined, not the people that joined tables and made it about themselves. Every single person that met someone and shook their hand and said, I have a movie idea or I have a television idea. That was it. The door shut. But if somebody's like, hey, I'm working on a movie, and they're a name person or they're somebody of worth, and you say, well, what do you need? Now they're going to listen to you. And you go, I'll do PA work. What do I care? I'll be a production assistant or whatever. I don't care. Now you get to grow up. You get to grow up in that industry. You get to grow up in that field. You get to grow. I have one of the kids I mentored. He became a writer on the WWE. The World Wrestling Entertainment. I don't know if he still works for him because they sold it, and I know he's working for another federation. But imagine he went into WWE and then he's like, oh, I just want to write I want to write stories that I want to write. No, you join a table, you get an opportunity, and this is the same thing as an author. If you get published by a publisher, you're joining a team. Your agent, you're joining a team, and it's like, how do we work together? What is our mission together? Are we on the same page? That's something to think about. When you get an agent, what is the page you want to be on? No pun intended. But like, what is their idea of what they want to see from you, and what is the idea you want to see from yourself? But I'm telling you right now, in any industry, if it's about me, right? No one wants you at their table. They're not going to give you opportunities. They might use you. They might drain you of everything. That's where you get one-hit wonders or a one book. Or I've seen it often with actors too, where they know somebody, so they get cast in something, and then that relationship becomes bigger with the person who cast them, and then they kind of ignore the actor, right? So, and then you get used, and now you don't get, no one wants to work with you again. My point is, it's all about giving and being a part of something and elevating something. And when it comes to the Johnson with the Last Jedi, it was about him, and he lost all those projects. Watiti, same thing. He had an opportunity for stuff, but because of Love and Thunder, people think it was because it was a bad movie. And it's like, no, it's because he came in, they gave him the floor, and he just didn't deliver. He delivered what he wanted. He didn't deliver what they wanted, what they were looking for. And it's like, I have this opportunity. I should use it. I should use it in a way that shows that I'm a team player, you know. Even though team players can still have a vision, you can still be like, hey, this is what I bring to the table. But at the same time, you can't join. All I'm saying is you can't join a table and someone goes, hey, we're going to be working on this thing to stop hiccups. And then everything out of your mouth is, you know what would be interesting if we opened burger joints? What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, what's this? Ragnarok, the TV series from Norway, was pretty cool. A bit of a slow burner, but enjoyable to flashy. If I remember correct, wasn't Ragnarok like a mixture of like, I didn't see that show, but it looked interesting. It was between that and Vikings. I was gonna watch one of them, but I just got busy. But is Ragnarok the one where they magic is implied, but it isn't real, but it kind of might be, like that's the way they do. No flashy action. I don't like it when writers have an agenda. It ruins and makes it seem like the characters are flat, boring. Well, yeah, because they're not writing anything other than. They're just like, how do I just write in the crap I want to write? You know, and they're not necessarily adding anything. I don't mind if somebody has an agenda, because every writer has an agenda. You know, like, I write with stuff. I want to show healthy relationship, healthy communication. I want to show found family. I want to show, I want to challenge trauma and PTSD. I want to challenge violence. I want to challenge war. I want to challenge power. I want to challenge those things. But if I write the books and it's all in favor of those things being terrible, I'm writing a bad book. I have to write from both point of views, or 6 point of views. That's the thing. Like, if you have something you want to write about, themes are very powerful. But if your theme is um like I'm polyamorous, and I'm sure everybody really knows that, I say that often, right? If I write a story where I just show that polyamory is the only way and other ideas of relationships are stupid, that's a bad story. It's a bad book. You got to show the pros and cons of things. You got to show, uh, you know, it's like if you write like the token black guy. You're like, I have a black character in my book, and you're like, you have a black character in your book, and that black character just so happens to be the smartest, the most power. Like, you don't want to do anything to offend. So now you're leaning into like weird territory, right? What us as authors should be doing is give them positions, give them uh, variation, give them variety, give them, I mean, just characters in general. Like, if you have two characters from the same culture, they can't be the same character. Like, you can't have two characters from the tree kingdom and they both love trees. You have to have one that loves trees and one that's like, a tree's really the thing we should worship, right? But that's still an agenda. That's still, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm writing, I stand more towards the tree people, but I have to add somebody who sort of questions the tree people. I grew up in the tree faith, and I have to question it, right? And then there's somebody that goes, trees, I don't believe in the trees. Trees are it's just organic, right? And now agenda is fine because it has depth, it has variation, it has nuance. But I agree with you, when writers write with agenda, and that agenda is just to get out their point of view, then characters do become flat, boring, and mouthpieces. They become something that are uh, equipped to only be the best version of said agenda. So I think agenda is important because that's themes, that's tone, that's the adventure you're trying to tell. That's I'm telling a crime novel, whatever the case is. But at the same time, you need nuance, or what's the point? When you play in someone else's sandbox, 100%. Yeah, that's the joining the table thing. Yep. I'm not sure he delivered what he wanted and not what they wanted, because it's the same thing everyone else are doing. Well, I mean that's fair. I think you're talking about Ryan Johnson, right? And but he did no because he was the one who got creative control over the direction of the story, and J.J. Abrams, which is a whole other conversation. J.J. Abrams was basically like, "Look, this is the trilogy," and then Johnson came in and was like, "No, I think I'm gonna change it up," and then he changed it up. That is what I read, but again, remember, the internet is filled with hoopla. Thomas shared the token characters explanation to me the other day as well. Well, yeah, it's important. It's important to have real characters, not oh, this is the thing, like, oh, we got this and because then that's not writing. That's just it's not only is it insensitive, it's stupid. Well said on token characters. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Look, I get it. I'm Sicilian. The Sopranos, fantastic. But when I watched Sleepless in while you were sleeping, and by the way, I love that movie with Sandra Bullock and Pullman, Bill Pullman. But there's a character in that movie who is basically the Italian character. Hey, yo, hey, and he's like pulling on his gold. And I watched that. I'll put it this way: I was in a relationship with a woman who was black, and we were watching that movie together. And she goes, "I bet you feel like I feel when I watch blank 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 movie, watching this movie right now." And I says, "I don't know if I know how you feel, but I know that I'm not liking it." Because it was just like, this character is Italian. And the character had zero nuance. All I'm saying is that's writers nuance. Add nuance. That's it. It's not that difficult to just be like, this is the other thing. Don't start with the character is tall, dark, and handsome, or the character is Jewish, or the character is Catholic. If you start there, you're going to lose it. You're going to fall apart in the narrative because then they're going to become those things. Like, my father was Catholic. I am not Catholic. My other brother became a rabbi somehow. Same household. We all went to we all went to church when we were younger. We all changed religions. We all changed faith. My mom became a born again. That's an example of nuance. We were all technically Catholics as per our birth, as per the way my mom and dad raised us, but they all changed. My father stayed a Catholic. He had to, right? That's how he was raised, right? But that nuance changes the way we look at a Catholic Italian family or Sicilian family, right? So that's how you have to look at your books, how you have to look at your narratives, how you have to look at your characters. Just because they are all Catholics doesn't mean they are all Catholics. It doesn't mean that they follow Catholicism the same way. It doesn't mean that they even believe they are. Well, I was raised as a Catholic, so but I don't practice, right? So that's how you would look at the characters. And if you don't do that, then they just become, as we said, the Tolkien character. They just become, well, I have this character in my stories. I did good. It's like, not necessarily. I'm glad you did explain and make sure I wasn't doing that. Of course. Well, yes. You had, yeah, and you are welcome. Glad you brought it up here. Well, I brought it up just because that's where the conversation went, but it wasn't intended. But the honest truth is sometimes we have an idea for something and there's nothing wrong with that idea. If you want to have, like, for example, I think Rush Hour's hysterical. But honestly, there's a couple things going on in that movie, right? But what's that old saying? You're allowed to make fun of yourself, kind of thing, right? But it is a comedy. It's a buddy comedy movie. So, but there should still be nuance. But there are 3 versions of that movie, but I doubt they're going to make a 4th, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It also becomes stupidly predictable. In Rings of Power, I knew Halberd was Sauron. Oh, the moment, the moment he appeared on screen, I was like, oh, it's Sauron. I was like, that's interesting. The first time they showed him purely because of his profile. Well, I was like, never mind. I have so much to say about that show, and I try to be positive on this show. I'm not really into the like what's terrible. Not that. I mean, Rings of Power is terrible. We got it's helpful for everyone. It really is. It is helpful to know these things. Wow, we almost did 2 hours. I thought I was going to stop early because I was just talking about tone. But anyway, time is it? 3:40. Jesus H Christ. What's the H stand for? Hallowed be thy name. Okay. All right. Other than that, I think we're good for today. We did good. Top fans. Who do we got? Look at that. M number 1. Flowers number 2. Uh-oh. What we got here? What? Prime is number 3. Very good. Very good. All right. I think we're done. To everybody out there, by the way, thanks so much. I'm going to be here tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Saturday and Sunday, we do lives. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We did all the buy me stuff, but you know me. I'm not really. I hate doing that stuff. But makearightlefthear.com. If you want to check me out, I'm always around. You could email me. I love talking to people. So makearightlefthear.com if you so desire. With that said, you're welcome. You can use the ninja situation as an example if you want. Well, maybe when I talk about that in a full video, I definitely will because I appreciate it. Flowers, I will see you later. Everyone, much love always. I had a real good time. I'm glad I stayed around. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.